Ladies and gentlemen, karma doesn't rush, but it never forgets. That's the truth people tend to overlook when they think they've gotten away with something. In the heat of the moment, they feel powerful. They feel untouchable. They feel like they're ahead. But life has its own rhythm, its own clock, and it's ticking even when the world goes quiet. You don't see karma coming. That's the thing. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock. It just walks in when it's ready. And by the time it arrives, by the time it takes its seat across from the ones who dished out the pain, it's already too late to apologize, too late to clean up the mess, too late to pretend like it never happened. Karma is patient. It doesn't need to strike fast to strike deep. It watches, it waits, it learns, and when it hits, it doesn't always hit loud. It hits right, hits where it hurts, hits where they thought they were safest. And the beauty of it is, you didn't have to lift a finger, you didn't have to scream, you didn't have to lower yourself to their level, you didn't retaliate, you kept your head down, stayed in your lane, and let the storm do what storms do. They thought they were ahead because you stayed quiet, because you didn't fight back, because you didn't play dirty like they did. But what they didn't see was the cost. The price life eventually collects when your hands aren't clean. Every time someone crosses a line, every time someone betrays someone who had nothing but good intentions for them, every lie, every cheap shot, every manipulation, it all gets recorded. Maybe not in a courtroom, maybe not on social media, maybe not even in the eyes of the world, but it's recorded in something deeper. Call it energy, call it the universe, call it God. Whatever name you put on it, the principle stays the same. What you put out comes back, not always today, not always tomorrow. But always, and when karma comes back around, it doesn't knock on the door of the person you pretended to be. It comes for the real you, the one behind the lies, the one behind the front. It comes for the truth. And when the truth is ugly, karma shows up with a mirror and makes you look, makes you feel, makes you answer for it. That's why people start unraveling out of nowhere. Why success starts slipping through their fingers. Why peace turns into paranoia. Why everything they built starts to rot from the inside, because what's built on harm never lasts. What's built by stepping on people can't stand forever. Sooner or later, the foundation cracks. The facade falls, and all that's left is what you really are underneath it all. Your silence was strength, not surrender. They mistook your stillness for weakness. They thought because you didn't react, because you didn't shout, because you didn't swing back, that you didn't feel the weight of what they did. But silence isn't absence. Silence is discipline. Silence is control. Anybody can explode. Anybody can make noise. But it takes power to hold your ground and say nothing when everything inside you wants to erupt. It takes wisdom to realize that not every battle is worth fighting, and that sometimes the loudest message you can send is the one you never speak. They wanted a reaction. They were hoping you'd break character, hoping you'd stoop down to their level so they could point and say, "See, you're just like me." But you knew better. You knew that energy is currency, and you weren't going to spend yours proving something to people already committed to misunderstanding you. So you stayed silent, not because you didn't care, not because you didn't hurt, but because you chose not to let them pull you into their chaos. That choice right there, that strength. They kept pushing, kept poking, kept trying to find the crack in your armor, but the silence wasn't a crack. It was the steel. It was the proof that you were built different, because you had every opportunity to lash out, to get even, to expose them, but you didn't. You chose to protect your peace instead. You chose to walk away with dignity rather than dance in the mud with people who never had any. And now, in the quiet of your restraint, karma is doing the talking for you. Life is answering back on your behalf. What they don't realize is that silence can echo louder than noise. It lingers. It haunts. It forces people to sit with what they did without giving them the distraction of a fight. Your silence made them face themselves, made them question, made them uncomfortable, because they expected war, and you gave them stillness. They wanted a show, and you gave them nothing. That emptiness, that's where their guilt lives now. That's where the consequences begin to rise. They don't understand the strength it takes to walk away. They don't see the courage it takes to bite your tongue when your truth could destroy them. But you saw the bigger picture. You knew that fire spreads fastest when it meets more fire, so you didn't fan their flames. You let them burn themselves out, and while they were watching for your rage, they missed the fact that you were rising. They missed the growth, the elevation, the quiet victories, the way the universe was moving things in your favor while they were still stuck trying to provoke you. That's the kind of strength that can't be taught. The kind that doesn't scream. It simply stands, and when it stands long enough, it becomes undeniable. What they buried you under became your foundation. They thought they were ending you, thought the weight of what they did would crush your spirit, silence your voice, break your will. But they didn't know what you were made of. They didn't realize that every ounce of dirt they threw your way was just another layer of strength being added to your story. Every betrayal, every lie, every moment they tried to dim your light was actually pushing you deeper into purpose, deeper into growth, deeper into becoming something they couldn't predict and wouldn't be able to control. They didn't understand that pressure doesn't only break people, it builds them, and you were built by adversity, shaped by pain, strengthened by disappointment. When they thought they were winning by trying to bury you, they were really just handing you the materials to rise. They gave you lessons, they gave you clarity, they gave you proof of who's not meant to walk with you to the next level, and you used it all. You didn't just survive it, you turned it into a blueprint. Into something you could build on, into something solid, because while they were laughing, while they were gossiping, while they were pointing fingers and watching to see if you'd fold, you were getting stronger in the dark. Stronger in silence, you were learning, you were healing, you were evolving, and the version of you that came out of that dirt, that version is nothing like the one they thought they could destroy. You became rooted, grounded, steady. You turned pain into power and confusion into clarity. You used the very thing meant to finish you as fuel. That's why they don't recognize you anymore. That's why they can't reach you anymore. You're not standing where they left you. They didn't know the laws of nature, didn't understand that seeds don't grow without being buried, that greatness doesn't shine without first being hidden, that storms don't break everything. Sometimes they water the soil. Sometimes they cleanse the space, and you let the storm do what it had to do. You didn't fight it. You absorbed it. You became one with the process, and in doing so, you became unshakable. You became someone who no longer fears darkness because you were forged in it. Someone who no longer runs from silence because that's where your strength was born. Now the very thing they tried to use to bury you is what you're standing on. Every lie they told became a stepping stone. Every attempt to block you became part of your testimony, and they don't even know it, but they helped build the very platform you're rising from. That's the irony of it. The same hands that tried to hold you down ended up lifting you up without even realizing it. Because when you're chosen, when you're purposed, when you're the one, nothing they do can stop your becoming. They only speed it up. The one doesn't chase revenge, because justice chases them. There's a difference between reacting and rising. A difference between being angry and being anchored. When you know who you are, when you understand the depth of your value, you don't waste time trying to prove it through payback. You don't run around trying to settle the score. You know the score will settle itself. The universe keeps its books balanced, always, and the one moves differently. They don't have to announce their pain. They don't have to expose the betrayal. They don't have to put a spotlight on who did them wrong, because they trust something bigger than revenge. They trust the law of return. What goes out will come back. People who operate from insecurity chase revenge. People who are broken want to break others, but the one understands that energy is sacred, that focus is fuel, and to waste it on retaliation is to delay your own blessings. That's why you stayed silent. Why you kept building, why you chose peace even when it felt like war, because you knew your name didn't belong in the mud with theirs. You knew your future didn't deserve to be poisoned by their past. And so you took the hit, you swallowed the pride, you let them think they won, but inside you knew what was coming. Justice moves slow but hits sharp. It doesn't knock, it breaks through, and when it comes, it doesn't just bring consequences. It brings lessons, the kind that pierce deeper than any words ever could, the kind that wake people up in the middle of the night, that make them relive what they did with a heart heavier than silence. And while they're haunted by the harm they caused, you're elevated by the healing you chose. You're carried by the grace you didn't even speak about. The grace that showed up because you didn't let hate live in your hands. Revenge is a distraction. It steals your time, your energy, your future. But justice, that comes as you move forward. It shows up while you're chasing purpose, while you're doing the work, while you're becoming everything they said you'd never be. It shows up when the people who threw stones now need shelter, when the ones who laughed now look lost, when the ones who doubted you can no longer deny you, and you didn't have to lift a single finger to make it happen. All you did was stay true, stay real, stay focused. You didn't choose revenge because you knew the fire they set would eventually burn their own house down, and you were already building something greater, something cleaner, something built on peace, not pettiness. And now, as things unfold, as justice begins to trace every step back to its source, they're left trying to figure out how the storm came for them without warning. But it wasn't without warning, it was right on time, and it never had to be loud, because when you're the one, justice always knows your name.